Hello, Copic in the Craft Room friends. I have a fun introduction for you today. I met some ladies last year who started a company called Finders Keepers Crafting. They are starting a new piece of their company called Craft with Pixels. It's all digital pieces. And by signing up for their newsletter, you'll get several free digital images to start. The first group of things, or one of the groups of things you'll get, is some color sample pages. So these are things you could print out. They're already in this full page format, but to collect color options for different mediums, you could do watercolor, your Copics. Obviously, that's what I would be doing, so I'd print these on my Copic paper. Another one of the free digital images or sheets that they sent out as part of me signing up for their newsletter was this eye chart, so I could. And what's fun, I love the designs on them. But then they also have a group of faces. So they start you off with kind of a standard long hair face that you could color and collect those hair and skin options. But then we also have kind of a wavy hair option. And that's kind of fun to have that, see what those colors would look like with those turns and bends and show something different. You have a third option for a female face with maybe a darker skin tones and tight curly hair, but whatever you want. But that's not it. You also get two sheets that have men's faces or male faces. So you can also test some colors out on those as well. They also, part of the group of free digital images, we have a fun little gnome family with frame and without. And then we had a couple aquatic images that I love. One is a jellyfish and one is a turtle. So I'll be coloring up several of these over the next month or so, but I'm going to start with the jellyfish today. It just intrigues me with how I can color that and make that really look more like a jellyfish. And so I'm not going for realism, but I just thought it'd be really fun to test this guy out. I've printed it out on Express It blending card. And I'm going to use a range of these colors that I'm kind of flashing at you here. I'll tell you as I use them. But I really wanted to keep it light so it looked kind of watery and that iridescent color sometimes that you see when you get to see them in a tank. So I'm using a lot of colorless blender, and I'm actually starting with the colorless blender to wet down the top portion of that jellyfish. And then I'm coming in with RV52 and kind of going over from the bottom edge and kind of flicking upward. I'm doing the same thing with the BV00. Now that's on that wet colorless blender, RV52 again. And so it's already softer than it would be normally. And I'm coming in again with colorless blender to soften it even further. So now I've added that colorless blender on the underside, and I'm using some darker colors here, BV00. It's grayed down from what I did on that front portion, kind of that top portion. And then I'm also going to use another RV. But again, this one has a little more gray to it, the RV32. It's a little desaturated. It's a little bit darker. At least it appears that way in comparison. I realize the numbering doesn't quite equate to that. But I feel like that pushes that underside a little bit further back. And then I use that same RV32 on that folding up lip that we see, that underside, and the BV00 as well. I'm really just trying to show kind of that difference so where we can see it changes the section that we're seeing or the part that we're seeing. So that gives that lip and it kind of pushes that inside back a little further. So then I'm pulling out two blues, and this is B60 and B63, and I'm starting with the B63, and I'm trying to map out. You might have noticed I was struggling on the underside of the jellyfish to determine what was tentacle and what was that back edge. And so I'm still playing with that here. I'm trying to figure out which part should be tentacle and which should be kind of seen through that back lip or the jellyfish. So I do the top little portion of the jellyfish, and then on some of these that have that feathery width to them, I'm going right down that center seam. This is all with that darker B63. The B6s are kind of unique within the blues because they really have a feel of having some violet in there, more so than gray, at least I feel like that. So I found a couple spots that look like they really were supposed to be the back of that jellyfish. So I'm coming back and hitting that with that RV32 again, just to darken that up again and really re-emphasize what I'm seeing through those. So I'm trying to push that back a little bit. In the BV00 again. Again, I'm trying to darken that so it sits back behind the tentacles now. Then I grab my B60 and I'm starting on that darker color on the tentacles and then working my way down. So as we get to the lower tips of the tentacles, it gets even lighter, kind of airy looking or kind of floating, that they have that quality of being fairly transparent. I always feel like they kind of glow when you see them in a tank. And my hope was that I could get that effect, that kind of really light, airy, kind of billowy feel. I'm not sure that I totally achieved that, but I really do like how the colors are ending up kind of working together. So I'm not necessarily trying to completely blend those two together totally smooth. I'm just trying to soften those edges a little bit. So BG70 is going to go in with colorless blender on the top of that jellyfish. And what I'm trying to do is, my guess is the top is mostly clear. So I'm trying to make it look like the watercolors are kind of showing through a little bit with the blue greens kind of coming through. And then I use that BG70 to really lighten up the 7.2. And then the colorless blender to soften that even further. But that kind of tops that crown on that. So notice the colorless blender stayed open this entire time. And now I am taking the side of my marker and I'm literally going kind of vertical wipes across the top of the jellyfish. I'm leaving gaps in between, and this color is really hard to see. It's so light. I'm going to do the same exact thing with my B60. Again, very light colors. I wanted to keep the colors pretty light because that jellyfish is so light. BG000 is next. Again, notice there's big gaps of whites. I'm definitely not trying to hit like every spot. B00 is actually about as dark as I get in this whole process. So this is going to have some more striking color to it. It goes straight over the top of the jellyfish, so it looks like it's in the water. And I finished with a G20, and I like the addition of this because all of those colors on the fish and the water so far have been super cool. And so to add that little bit of yellow with the green, I think really helps. In the past, I've done some of this technique and the water has gotten a little darker, which I do like. And then I can use colorless blender on the bubbles. This water stays pretty light. So I need to come back in with a white opaque marker or pen. This is a Uni Posca, I think is how that's pronounced. And it's kind of my new favorite paint pen. I heard through the grapevine that Sharpie is starting to discontinue, and that has been my previous favorite. And so I'm finding my new one. And then I'm going to actually punch those little bubbles a little bit further by adding some stickles just for some shine. And then I also use a little bit of Wink of Stella on the top of the jellyfish. Again, now I've gone completely unrealistic. And I wasn't aiming for photorealism on this. I just am adding some fun touches at this point. And this is really faint. I think my pen is actually just about out of glitter. And you can just barely see that sheen as I tip the card or tip the page. There you go. You can kind of see that sheen. Anyways, I had a blast coloring this image. Our brand new Craft with Pixels is where I got this from, and they are launching their site and opening this very Saturday. So you have got to check them out. I am thrilled that they are opening up this new portion of their business, and I wish them best of luck. Thank you as always for stopping by and checking in with me here on Copic in the Craft Room. If you haven't had a chance, stop by my blog and check out all of my live teaching opportunities. And I hope each and every one of you have a happy, colorful week.